They didn't even wait for the lawyer to speak. She's getting nothing. Dad hated her. That's the first thing my sister Rachel said the moment I walked into the room. No hello. No looking at me. Just those cold, sharp words, loud enough for everyone to hear. Like she wanted them to echo. It felt like a punch to my chest. I held my son Peter's hand tighter. His small fingers held mine back, warm and shaking. I looked down and tried to smile at him. It was a thin, weak smile, but he knew. He always did. I hadn't even sat down yet, but the message was clear. I wasn't welcome. I wasn't one of them. I was just someone they were ready to push out for good. Rachel sat at the head of the table, calm and proud in a gray pantsuit. Her dark hair was pulled tight in a bun, the kind she wore when she wanted to look powerful. Her lipstick was bold red, typical Rachel. Dressed for a fight I didn't even know I'd walked into. Then I heard a voice I hated even more, my Uncle Logan. My dad's older brother. He laughed, dry and mean, leaning back in his chair with his hands behind his head. That smug smile spread across his face like spilled oil. Even her kid knows she's useless, he muttered, nodding at Peter like he wasn't even a real person. Peter stared at the floor, and my heart broke a little more. Around the room, some people nodded. My cousins, old neighbors, family friends I hadn't seen in years. People who had already chosen a side, and it wasn't mine. I swallowed hard. My throat was dry like sandpaper. The room smelled like dust, old leather chairs, and the sickeningly sweet perfume Rachel had drenched herself in. My ears pounded with my own heartbeat, hot and loud and full of shame. I took Peter's hand and quietly walked to the farthest chair at the end of the long table. It was far away from all of them. The chair creaked as I sat down. When I sat down, Peter climbed up next to me. His legs swung above the floor, and he folded his hands in his lap like he wanted to disappear. Rachel slowly turned her head toward me. When our eyes met, she smiled, but it wasn't kind. It was the kind of smile full of fake pity and hidden hate. You know this is a waste of time, right? She said in a calm but cold voice. Dad changed his will. You're not in it at all. He said you were dead to him. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My mouth felt heavy, like my tongue didn't know what to do. I just gave a small nod, pretending I understood. But inside, I was asking myself, why did I even come here? I thought maybe, just maybe, there would be something. A note. A line. A sign that he remembered me. Something to make it all make sense. Instead, I was back in the place I swore I'd never return to. Surrounded by people who had erased me from their lives long before they ever buried him. I was about to stand up and leave, to walk out before they started dividing the estate like vultures circling a body, when the door creaked open. Mr. Richard, my father's lawyer, walked in holding a thick folder. He looked exactly the same. Neat suit, tired eyes, and a face that showed no emotion. The room went silent. Everyone sat up straight. This was it. I braced myself for the moment I'd be pushed aside again. I came here expecting nothing, and I was ready to leave with just that, nothing. Or so I thought. Because what no one in that room knew, not Rachel, not Logan, not even me, was that my son Peter had brought something with him. And with one sentence, he would change everything they thought they knew. You forgot the video, he said. He was talking about the recording. It had been 9 years since I sat in a room like this with my family. 9 years since I packed up everything they said I didn't deserve, took little Peter, only 3 years old at the time, and left without turning back. Not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. I had to leave because every talk with my father, Jeremy, ended in either silence or yelling. Every family gathering felt like walking on broken glass while pretending everything was fine. But now, here I was back in a room that still smelled like cigar smoke and old anger. The strange part? I didn't even know I was invited to the will reading. The envelope came 4 days after the funeral. No message, no explanation, just a date, time, and address written in Mr. Richard's neat handwriting. For a second, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they meant to send it to Eric. Or maybe it was just one last cruel joke. But Peter wanted to go. He looked up at me with those gentle, honest eyes and said softly, "We should go, Mom." Maybe there's something you need to hear. I don't know how a 11-year-old can be so wise, but Peter is. Sometimes I think he understands things most adults never do. So, we went. I wore the plain black dress I hadn't touched since my mom's funeral. Peter wore a little button-up shirt he chose himself. That morning, I braided his hair with shaky hands, and he looked up at me and said, "You look beautiful." He didn't know I hadn't slept, or how scared I was to face the people who treated me like I didn't exist for almost 11 years.
I knew what they thought of me.
Rachel, the perfect daughter. She stayed. She helped. She took care of Dad. And she made sure everyone saw it. She told the story so many times, people believed it without question. Anna? Anna left. Anna couldn't handle life. Anna ran away. They never asked why I really left. They didn't know, or didn't care, that Dad stopped talking to me when I said I couldn't stay in a marriage that was breaking me. That when I showed up at his doorstep with little Peter and a suitcase, he closed the door in my face. The one person who was supposed to protect me became another wall I had to climb. Uncle Logan never helped. He just echoed Dad's harsh words. Family doesn't quit. Blood is loyalty. Don't come back crying. And Rachel? She absorbed all of it and turned it into a story she could use against me. So, I stopped trying. I built a quiet life for Peter and me. We didn't have a lot, but we had peace, love, and laughter. Still, deep down, a small part of me held on to a tiny hope that maybe, just maybe, Dad had changed his mind. Maybe he felt sorry. Maybe he left something behind for me. That little hope is what made me open the envelope. It's what made me come here. But now, sitting in this room, surrounded by cold stares and proud, smug smiles, I felt silly for ever hoping. Peter hadn't said a word since we sat down. He sat straight, hands in his lap, eyes moving slowly across the room like he was watching every person closely. His calmness made me nervous, like he was waiting for something big to happen. Then Mr. Richard cleared his throat and opened the folder in his hands. I leaned back in my chair and quietly whispered to myself, "Just get through this. Don't let them see you break." But Peter, he was holding on to something bigger than sadness. And before this day ended, he would show everyone that he was the only one who had truly listened to my father. Mr. Richard cleared his throat again in that lawyer way, trying to get everyone's attention without really saying anything. He adjusted his glasses, opened the folder, and started reading the will like it was just another normal day. I didn't hear much of the beginning, just legal terms, formal phrases, and estate stuff. My mind was spinning, not because of what he was saying, but because of what I knew was coming. He wasn't going to say my name. I was sure of it. Still, every time Mr. Richard paused to turn the page, I held my breath. Maybe the next part will be different, I told myself. Maybe there will be a surprise. But it wasn't. It was the same as I expected. To my daughter Rachel, I leave the main house and everything in it. Rachel's face stayed still, but I could feel her pride filling the room. She glanced at her husband, James, and he gave her a small, proud nod, like they were already planning what to change in the house. To my brother Logan, the lake house, and the rest of the shares in the family business. Logan leaned back even more in his chair, folding his arms and raising his chin like he was the king of something. He slid a cigar back between his teeth and gently bit down like he had just won a prize. To Gary, my nephew, the vintage car collection.
Gary.
The same cousin who once locked me out of my own room when I was 9 just to watch me cry. That Gary. I bit the inside of my cheek to stop myself from reacting. I could feel the tears forming, hot and sharp, but I didn't let them fall. Still nothing about me. Not even a small mention. Then came the line I was most afraid of. And as previously stated, my daughter Anna will not receive any portion of this estate. There it was. Simple. Final. Like someone closing a door right in your face. It felt like someone had hit me in the chest. I didn't even realize my hands were clenched in my lap until Peter gently slipped his fingers into mine under the table. His touch brought me back, kept me from falling apart. My heart was beating so fast, I could feel it in my face. My skin felt hot. Then came the whispers. Quiet, but on purpose. Rachel let out a soft laugh. Told you, she muttered to James. Uncle Logan shook his head like he expected this to happen. Takes a certain kind of person to walk away from her own father, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. The others, my cousins, the family friends, didn't say anything. But their silence said everything. I stared down at the table. The wood grain twisted in loops and swirls, almost like a maze. It was easier to look at that than at their faces. Inside my head, my own voice asked, why did I come? Why did I think he'd remember me? Then Peter moved. He let go of my hand and sat up straight. I felt the shift before I saw it. His voice broke the silence in the room. Soft but firm. You forgot the video he recorded. The room froze. Rachel blinked. Logan turned. Mr. Richard stopped, his pen still in the air. I looked at Peter, confused. What video? I whispered. But Peter wasn't looking at me. He was staring straight ahead, calm and sure. Then, he reached into his backpack and pulled out a small white envelope. It was a little wrinkled, but sealed tight. My name was on the front, and below that, in my father's handwriting, were the words, "For the lawyer. Only if it gets ugly." I didn't understand, but Peter did. And in that moment, I felt the entire mood in the room shift. I stared at the envelope in Peter's hands like it was glowing. He held it so steadily, like it wasn't the most powerful thing in the room. But all I could see was that handwriting, bold, sharp, all in capital letters. My father's writing. For the lawyer. Only if it gets ugly. And it had definitely gotten ugly. I could barely speak. Peter, where did you get that? He looked at me with soft, steady eyes. Grandpa gave it to me a while ago. He told me to keep it safe. My heart skipped a beat. He gave it to you? Peter nodded. The day we visited him. Just me and him. You were at work. I blinked, trying to remember. Then it hit me, I did remember that day. Peter had asked to go with our neighbor to drop something off at Grandpa's. I had said yes. It was the first time I let him go without me. I had no idea they even talked. Now, Mr. Richard reached across the table and asked gently, "May I?" Peter nodded and handed him the envelope without hesitation. Everyone leaned in. Rachel squinted like she was confused. Logan sat up straight, no longer leaning back. For the first time, no one had anything to say. The room was quiet as Mr. Richard carefully tore open the envelope. Inside was a small black USB drive. Nothing special, but my heart started racing like it was something dangerous. He also pulled out a note, another page in my father's handwriting. Mr. Richard read it silently, and for the first time since he entered the room, he looked a little shaken. Just for a moment, but I noticed. He didn't speak right away. He just gave a slow nod, like something serious had been confirmed. Then he looked at the room and said in a soft voice, "There's a video message from Jeremy Scott, recorded before the final version of this will. It came with instructions to play it only if things got difficult." His eyes went to Rachel, then to Logan. They both shifted in their seats. Rachel scoffed, "This is ridiculous. He never said anything about a video." Logan leaned forward, his voice sharp.
We don't even know what's on that thing. Could be fake.
Mr. Richard raised his hand calmly. The video has a timestamp. The handwriting and signature are real. And I am legally required to play it. He plugged the USB into a black laptop on the desk next to him. The screen turned on, then showed one word, play. The air in the room felt different now. No one spoke. No one moved. I could feel my heartbeat in my fingers. I held onto the chair's arms like I was afraid I might float away. My breathing was shaky. Why would Dad leave a video? Why give it to Peter? What could he possibly have to say now, after everything? Peter didn't seem worried. He sat still, eyes on the screen like he already knew what was coming. Rachel looked pale now, her lips tight. Logan wasn't chewing his cigar anymore. I felt like running, or crying, or yelling. But most of all, I needed to know. Mr. Richard pressed the spacebar. The screen went black for a second. Then it flickered, and there he was. My father. He looked older.
Thinner.
He was sitting at his desk, wearing that navy sweater I had bought him for his last birthday. The one I didn't even know he had ever worn. His hands were folded. His face wasn't cold. It just looked tired. He looked straight into the camera. Then he began to speak. I didn't even breathe. Not when the screen lit up. Not when I saw his face. When I heard the first two words, "Hi, Anna," my heart nearly stopped. He looked older than I remembered. His skin was thinner, and he didn't sit as tall as he used to. But it was still my dad, Jeremy Scott, sitting at his old wooden desk with the antique globe behind him, just like when we were kids. Only this time, he didn't look strict or cold. He looked human. "If you're watching this," he said, "I'm gone. And I'm guessing the will reading didn't go well." His hands were folded in front of him. I noticed his fingers twitching slightly, something he used to do when he was nervous. I do the same thing. "I didn't expect peace between you and the family," he continued. "I know what they think of you. And I know what I said about you too." He paused, looked down, and took a breath. I was wrong. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My fingers gripped the chair. Peter looked up at me, but I couldn't look away from the screen. I believed what Rachel told me. I believed Logan. I believed that you left because you didn't care. I never asked questions. I didn't listen. Not once. You tried to explain, and I shut the door in your face, on you and Peter. I heard Rachel shift in her chair beside me, clearly uncomfortable, but I didn't look at her. I couldn't. Dad's voice cracked slightly. I thought being strong meant being proud. That if you left, it was betrayal. But now I understand. Real strength is showing up. It's protecting your child. And you did that. You did what I couldn't. His eyes were wet. So were mine. I met Peter once when he came by to see me. Just the two of us. He didn't say much, but when I asked him about you, he said, "My mom is the safest place in the world." I covered my mouth with my hand, trying not to cry. "I lost you, Anna," Dad said, voice soft. "I see that now. I lost my daughter because I was too busy trying to be right instead of just loving you the way you needed." He took a deep breath, then looked straight into the camera.
Calm. Certain.
"But I won't let the last thing I do be pushing you away again." He cleared his throat. "So, I changed the will." There was a loud gasp in the room. A chair creaked, probably Logan's. Rachel muttered something under her breath, but I couldn't hear it. I could barely hear anything except Dad's voice. "I've left the house to you and Peter. The savings. The retirement account. It's all yours. And a college fund for Peter too." He paused, eyes full of emotion. "I know this doesn't undo the pain I caused. But I want you to have the peace I couldn't give you. When I was alive," my father said, then paused. He leaned a little closer to the camera. "And if they're angry, let them be angry. You deserve this. You lived through everything and never stopped being a mother. That's more than I ever managed." A heavy feeling rose in my throat. I could barely breathe. "I'm proud of you, and I love you, Anna. I always did, I just didn't know how to show it." Then, just before the screen faded to black, he said softly, "Take care of my grandson. Tell him thank you." The screen went dark. No music, no ending message. Just silence. Deep, pure silence. Around me, chairs creaked. Someone sniffled. But I didn't move. I sat there with my hand over my mouth, tears falling down my cheeks. It felt like a weight I didn't even know I had been carrying was suddenly gone. After years of blame, silence, and being pushed away, he finally heard me. And in that moment of quiet, no one could take it from me. No one said a word when the screen turned off. Not Rachel. Not Logan. Not the cousins or the family friends who once smiled at me while ignoring my pain. Even Mr. Richard stayed still, his hand frozen above the mouse like stopping the video had paused time itself. And maybe, in a way, it had. I don't know how long I sat there. My hand was still covering my mouth, my cheeks still wet. I hadn't even noticed the tears until I felt Peter's hand slip into mine again. He wasn't crying. He just looked up at me with a small, knowing smile, like he'd been waiting for this moment, waiting for the truth to finally be spoken. I leaned down and kissed the top of his head. My heart ached with something too big to explain: love, relief, grief, all mixed together. Across the room, Rachel stood up quickly. Her chair screeched as it moved. She grabbed her bag with shaky hands and walked out without saying a word. Her husband followed behind, red in the face, mumbling something under his breath. Logan stayed sitting longer. His jaw was tight, and he stared at nothing. When he finally got up, he looked at Mr. Richard like he wanted to argue, but even he knew there was nothing left to say. My father had spoken. His words couldn't be ignored. The rest followed one by one. Some didn't look at me. A few gave small nods, maybe pity, maybe respect. I couldn't tell. Soon, it was just the three of us left. Mr. Richard gently closed the folder and cleared his throat. "There'll be some paperwork," he said, his voice softer than before. "But everything's in order." I nodded. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? He gave me a small, kind smile, then left the room quietly. The silence that followed wasn't the heavy kind anymore. It was peaceful. I had gotten used to silence, but this silence felt different. It felt peaceful, complete, like something inside me had finally settled. I looked at Peter, still holding my hand, still watching me like I was the strongest person in the world. Maybe to him I was. But the truth is, he was the one who saved me. He carried that envelope like it was nothing, just a piece of paper. But it held the truth that changed everything. We stayed a little longer. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed a moment to breathe. Maybe I wanted to sit in the only room where, after so many years, I finally felt like I belonged. I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head. "I'm proud of you." 3 simple words I never thought I'd hear. Words I didn't even know I needed so much. I thought about all the years I spent feeling ignored, blamed, and forgotten. But now, I wasn't forgotten. I was seen. I was heard. I mattered. I looked at Peter again. "Thank you," I whispered. He tilted his head. "For what?" "For being braver than me," I said. "For holding on to something that mattered." He smiled. "I just wanted you to hear him." And I did. Not just in the video, but in the quiet that came afterward. In the peace that filled the room once everyone else had gone. That's the thing about the truth. It doesn't always come when you want it. But when it does, it changes everything. So no, I didn't walk out of that room broken. I walked out holding my son's hand, my father's words still echoing in my heart. I walked out whole. And that silence? It finally meant something. If this story meant something to you, if you've ever been pushed aside, judged unfairly, or made to feel like your voice didn't count, just remember this. You are not invisible. The truth may take time, but it always finds its way out. If this touched your heart, please like the video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Stories like this reach those who need them most when you help them travel. And if you want more honest, emotional stories just like this one, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's so much more to share. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and always remember, your voice matters.